I haven't got any Jews living in my basement, at least not to my knowledge, but I have stolen quite a number of books over the years. Most have been unintentional, but stolen regardless. My first act of thievery in this manner was a children's story about a giant whose feet just one day started acting up and made him traverse all over the countryside, and when he got back home late at night he was extremely tired. But because after that whole ordeal he did wash his feet and clip his toenails, they once again acted as they ought. The moral of the story was take care of your feet. I believe that was a story we were supposed to take home when I was in the first grade, and I just never brought it back to school. Many such thieving acts of mine have been in this way. I do remember one instance in which I knowingly took a book. In my middle school there was a long bookshelf called the sharing library. You could bring a book and put it in there and you were allowed to take one out. In 7th grade we had a book drive for the sharing library. Each classroom had to try to bring in as many books as possible, and the one that won would get to have an ice cream party. But the conditions for my classroom were, if you didn't bring in a book, you were not allowed to take part in the ice cream social. I am very attached to my books, but at the time it seemed more important that I should get to eat ice cream. After long deliberation, I chose one book that I knew I would probably never read. It was about the Book of the Dead from my grandmother, because every time we went to her house we would be allowed to take one book. So it wasn't like it was like a gift, but it was just from her. So that was pretty stupid. As it happened, our classroom did win the ice cream social, so I got to have ice cream. But then I told this to my sister, and she made me come to my senses. Every single day I would go there and I would look for the book to see if I could take it back. On the penultimate day of school in 8th grade, I was walking next to that bookshelf, not even looking for it, and I just saw it from the corner of my eye, and finally, I was able to retrieve it, though I didn't give any book to them, so I got free ice cream and my book back. I didn't see it so much as me stealing a book as taking my book back. There were several times when I did take books from that bookshelf without giving any in return. Another book I've taken is the BFG. I remember that specifically because I wrote about it in my journal, how when I was in 3rd grade, I think, I read it for the first time and I just loved it because it's so funny and Mr. Doll is amazing. I enjoyed the book so much that I renewed it so I could read it out loud to my mom. Obviously she's an adult and didn't appreciate it as much, and it just made me so upset that I wrote about it in my journal, but I kept the book. I would never steal a book from a bookstore, though I do admit sometimes I do contemplate stealing books from school. Right now we're reading Le Petit Prince in French, and 2 weeks ago I took home a copy. I just kept it in my backpack because I like having the same one every time, even though we were supposed to keep them in the classroom. But today my teacher passed out copies for us to take home and then bring back when we were done reading the book. And as this was going on, the thought passed through my head to just keep the one that I had already taken. I eventually decided against it